Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video series I'm going to be discussing loot priority for caster DPS in Classic WoW. I probably should have made this video like 6 months ago when Molten Core was relevant, but better late than never. So in this video I'm going to be talking about Phase 1 gear being Molten Core and Onyxia. I'm going to go over each piece of caster loot and talk about if you're like in a loot council guild where I feel the item is best. Whether it's on a mage, a warlock, a Elisham, a boomkin, a shadow priest, whatever. A little bit about my experience as far as like my knowledge and stuff is rating is concerned. In 2019 Classic, I duo mained a Feral Druid on Alliance and a Shadow Priest on Horde. So I was kind of a meme spec enjoyer. And now in 2019, I decided to main Warlock this time around. So I have the perspective of a Shadow Priest and a Warlock as far as casters are concerned. I've played Mage and Boomkin, and actually I haven't played Ellie Shaman at all. Played Mage and Boomkin a little bit, but my expertise is Warlock and Shadow Priest. But with that said, I'm going to go over each piece of loot. Kind of, even though we're in Encourage right now in these 2019 realms, I'm going to be looking at it as a standpoint of, like, if Classic gets re-released or whatever, pretending that only Molten Core and Onyxia and, like, dungeons are available. But with that said, let's get into it. I'm going to start with the first boss, and then just move on down from there. A lot of bosses are going to be skipped just because they don't have any loot for casters that wasn't on a previous boss. Like, for instance, Lucifron's the first boss. Some of this gear on Lucifron is also, like, on other bosses. But with that said, let's get into it. So starting first with Lucifron as a good bit of items. So let's start with Choker of Enlightenment. Now, if I'm in, like, a loot council type deal, I would say just slash roll. It's I wouldn't say any casters should be prioritized over any other casters. Even like the meme specs like Shadow Priest, Boomkin, Ellie Shaman. I don't think that you need to be like only Warlocks mages get Choker of Enlightenment. Because it's no one's bis. It's very comparable to Pre-bis, which for most people I would say is Star of Mysteria, the 1% hit necklace from Strathome. 18 spell damage, 1% hit. Very comparable as far as damage output is concerned. I would say casters over healers, because healers get the I think it's animated chain necklace. It's the healer neck from Strathome that gives you like 33 healing. So I would say healers below casters. A healer may want this for PvP, like if you're playing Elisham or something or a Boomkin, you probably want to have a good mixture of spell damage and plus healing. You don't want to just have a whole bunch of plus healing, because then you aren't able to kill anybody. But as far as like PvE is concerned and just loot priority, I would say just slash roll all casters, and then if none of the casters want it, healers, have fun. But that one's pretty simple. It's no one's bis. Bis is of course off Ragnaros. Moving on, Robe of Volatile Power. This is the interesting one because it is arguably bis for some people and kind of a side grade to bis for other people. So for each of these slides, I have the actual item I'm talking about on the left. And then when I want to reference another item, I have it on the right-hand side of the screen. So I have 3 different chests that are not Robe of Volatile Power on the right for reference, because there's 3 very good tailoring chests that you can acquire before even stepping foot into Molten Core, being Robe of the Void for Warlocks, Robe of Winter Night, a budget option for Warlocks and also for Shadow Priests, and then Robe of the Archmage for Mages. But let's look at Robe of Volatile Power. So it has some Stamina Spirit, it has 2% crit, and 23 spell damage. When you look at that compared to Robe of the Archmage, 12 intellect, 40 damage, 1% crit, and on-use mana. Robe of the Archmage is just better, honestly. I mean, maybe for PvP you want Robe Volatile Power because it has a little bit of stamina, but I would say Robe of the Archmage is just better. I mean, 40 damage and 1 crit, as a rule, is more valuable than 2 crit and 23 damage. Plus, it has an on use. And then comparing it to like Robe of Winter Knights, like let's say you're a Warlock and you want to go with the budget option, 40 shadow damage compared to 23 damage, 2% crit. Robe of Volatile Power is certainly better than Robe of Winter Knight, and I would also say better than Robe of the Void. Robe of the Void being 46 damage. For Shadow Priest, they just want Robe of Winter Knight because Shadow Priests really don't value crit very much at all. They really value spell damage and like intellect and MP5 because the only thing they have that can crit is like Mind Blast. So they don't really value crit nearly as much as any other casters. So with that said, for Robe of Volatile Power, I would say Loot Prio. I would say Warlock, Mage, Boomkin, and Ellie Shaman are all equal, with the exception of mages that have Robe of Archmage shouldn't get Robe of Volatile Power. This chest isn't so amazing that I would be like, for some of these items, as we all know, Boomkins, Ellie Shamans, and Shadow Priests are kind of a meme spec. But I would not. The way I look at it, if I was building a guild, is their classic WoW raids are easy. Unless you're trying to be a speedrun guild or a super mega parse guild, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't invite an Ellie Shaman, a Boomkin, or a Shadow Priest. And if you do invite them, I don't think it's fair to say you don't get any loot except for stuff that nobody else wants. However, for really high ticket items, I do feel like they kind of know what they're signing up for, in that mages and warlocks should be prioritized those items, just because mages and warlocks do a lot more DPS than Boomkins and Ellie Shamans and Shadow Priests. But with that said, I would say Robe of Volatile Power. There is better gear for everyone, for warlocks and mages in particular, in the next phase in BWL. So I would say just equal pyro for all the casters. This robe is very nice, but not so crazy that I feel like you need to prioritize one caster over the other. And keep in mind that mages really should have a Robe of the Archmage anyways. After casters, I would say Holy Paladins. They really like this chest because Holy Paladins really do like crit. But I would say they should be prioritized after casters because there are a lot of other good healing options. And then like after Holy Paladins, you can go with like other healers who might want it for PvP. Like I was kind of saying, the Warlock and the Mage tier 2 chest is 1% crit and 32 damage for each of those classes, which is pretty much the same as like Robe of Volatile Power. So this chest isn't so crazy that you really are typically wearing it like into AQ. So for that reason, I would just say like equal prio. Actually, probably mages a little bit lower than warlocks and boomkins and Ellie Shamans. And Shadow Priests don't even really want this, or they shouldn't, because Robe of the Winter Knight is better for them. I'm moving on. Lucifron, Ring of Spell Power. So this is everyone's BIS during Molten Core or BWL. Every caster would want 2 of these as their BIS. It's just that good. However, I do think mages should have priority over every other caster, in that looking at next phase, mages are going to want a Ring of Spell Power and a Band of Force Concentration. However, warlocks want Band of Force Concentration and a Band of Dark Dominion, which you see over there on the right. It has the same damage and it has stats. However, like on my warlock, I also have a Ring of Spell Power because for like trash, when you're using Hellfire and stuff, Ring of Spell Power is way better because Band of Dark Dominion is only shadow damage. But this ring is fairly rare, and every caster wants it. So for that reason, I would make sure all the mages get a Ring of Spell Power. before like warlocks and stuff. You could go like first one to a mage, second one to a warlock, third one to a mage, fourth one to a warlock. You could go like that, which I would say is also kind of fair. But I would say the first one definitely should go to like your best mage, because mages wear Ring of Spell Power and BWL, whereas warlocks, for boss encounters at least, would prefer Band of Dark Dominion over Ring of Spell Power, and then like every caster wants Band of Force Concentration. But I would say don't give like 2 Ring of Spell Powers to all the mages before like warlocks, right? I would say give 1 to each caster before you give 2 Ring of Spell Powers to anyone, because every caster during BWL their abyss is like Band of Force Concentration, with the exception of maybe Shadow Priest, because they do not need nearly as much hit as every other caster. Yeah, Ring of Spell Power, I would say a slight prio to mages, just because of the existence of Band of Dark Dominion in BWL. Moving on, Sorcerer's Dagger. This is a slight upgrade to like random dungeon spellblades, but it's not that great. It's 20 spell damage on a main hand. I would just say slash roll if you want it. Casters who want it, then healers who want it. It's no one's biz. It's just like I was saying, just slight upgrade over like dungeon blues. Moving on, Talisman of Ephemeral Power. Now, there's no mathematical reason why Mage and Warlock should be above Boomkin, Elisham, Shadow Priest. Like the stats, all these casters want spell power, right? But this is one of those really high, impactful, big ticket items that just because it's so good right now during Phase 1, that I feel like it's fair to give it to Mages and Warlocks before the quote-unquote meme specs, Boomkins, Elisham, Shadow Priests. However, I do think they should get it before healers. It is, a lot of BIS lists will say it's healers BIS as well. However, in the coming phases, there's so many good healing trinkets that become available to them that are just way better than Talisman of Ephemeral Power. Whereas even in BWL, TOEP is still very good. And even in AQ40, TOEP is still very good for casters. So I would say certainly casters over healers. Do not give TOEP to a healer as a rule, unless you just happen to see a million TOEPs. But I would say Mage and Warlock equal prio over the quote-unquote meme specs. The next interesting one is Mana Igniting Chord. This is every caster's BIS, except for arguably Shadow Priest, because they kind of want the one-off Major Domo. But just like Ring of Spell Power, because of what's available next phase, I would say mages should get Mana Igniting Chord before anybody else. In that next phase, the tier 2 belt for Warlock is almost the exact same thing as Mana Igniting Chord. And it should be pretty easy. Once BWO comes out, there's probably only like 3 Warlocks in your raid. They'll all get Nemesis belt eventually. And it's almost just as good as Mana Igniting Chord. The only difference is like intellect. Same spell damage, same crit. However, the Mage belt kind of sucks ass. 23 damage. That's it. And like stamina and stuff. But the Warlock belt is just so good. It's 25 damage and 1% crit. So for Mana Igniting Chord, definitely give this to all your mages. I would give it to all the mages before any Warlock. And I would even go as far as to say Boomkins and Elishamans should get it before Warlocks as well. Because Boomkins and Elishamans don't have a tier 2 belt that is useful for DPS. So I would even say Boomkins, Elishamans over Warlocks. Warlocks want it, but is it really a big deal for them? No, because they get Nemesis belt next phase. It should be easy for them to get that. Definitely, Warlocks who are clamoring over Mana Igniting Chord are just being greedy. You can wait your turn, wait till BWO, get your Nemesis belt, you're good. And then after Warlock, I would say like healers who want it, and like Shadow Priests maybe if they want it. This is an attractive item, particularly for Holy Paladin, because they really like crit. But I would still say they don't deserve it as much as like mages and stuff. And then Shadow Priests if they want it, but they really shouldn't because of Major Domo loot. Maybe this is a hair better than the Belt off Major Domo for Shadow Priest. It has less spell damage, but 16 intellect is nice. And then that 1% crit is nice as well. But it is kind of like a side grade to the Major Domo belt for a Shadow Priest. Moving on to Magmadar, 2 of 2. This offhand. Pretty much just whoever wants it. Casters, healers, doesn't matter. It's really just like a PvP piece. It has a lot of stam int and then 11 spell damage healing. As far as casters are concerned, if you are using one hand offhand, you're going to be using the quest reward from the chain in Ungoro that gives you the, what is it, Seal of Aquamentus or something? It's a 20 spell damage green offhand. That's better than this for, as a rule, for casters. And it's free. Just go do the quest chain. It's not that hard. Go do it. And then also, once AV comes out, the AV offhands are just so good. They outclass this by a mile. So just slash roll. Whoever wants this, have fun. Shazra, I almost didn't even include this item, but I felt like might as well. Just whoever wants it. It's a wand, has intellect and power res. Prebis, there's Prebis wands that give you spell damage, like Bronekeeper Stylus or whatever. So if you want it, have fun. Golemag. So big ticket item, Azure Song Mageblade. In 2019, this was even more of a big ticket item because rank 14 was much more exclusive. However, with this new re-release, rank 14 is fairly easy to attain and way better than Mageblade. So I would say for Mageblade, Mage equal Warlock, because Druids, Shamans, and Priests can't even use swords, so they don't have to worry about it. And then Holy Paladins. A lot of Holy Paladins really like this sword, but I would say Mage and Warlock should be prioritized over H-Pals, just because even though it's arguably their BIS right now during Molten Core Onyxia, a lot of good healing weapons are introduced in like Dire Maul and BWL and stuff. And then also rank 14 healing weapon is like 143 healing or something like that. Like, if you thought the rank 14 weapon was way better than Mageblade, the cast weapon, which has like 72 damage and 1% crit, look at the rank 14 healing weapon. That just blows this out of the water for healers. So, Mage equal Warlock, I don't see any reason to prioritize one over the other. If you really want to be min-maxy, mages do a little bit more damage than warlocks. So you might say, well, mages are better than warlocks, so mage over warlock. But I don't really think that that's necessarily the right approach. I would say maybe give the first one to a mage, and then the next one to a warlock, and then to mage, and to a warlock. But as a rule, I would say equal prio for mages and warlocks on a Mageblade. Then Staff of Dominance. This is slightly better than like Prebis, like using a blue weapon and like Seal of Aquamentus or whatever, or like Sorcerer's Dagger plus Seal of Aquamentus. This staff is a bit better than those setups, but a fair amount worse than Mageblade, and way worse than rank 14. So I would just say, casters who want it, if it's an upgrade for you, just slash roll. Not Shadow Priest though, because you can get Anathema, which is better for you, and it should be pretty easy to attain Anathema. It's a 50% drop chance off Major Domo, and there's usually not that many priests in a raid. So, not Shadow Priests. But everybody else, Boomkins, Alley Shamans, Mages, Warlocks, whoever wants it, just slash roll. It's a good item, but it's no one's BIS. It's not that amazing. It's good. No reason to prioritize this for like Mages and Warlocks over like Boomkins and stuff. Even if it's like your mage is using the Hypnotic Blade from Scarlet Monastery and Seal of Alchematis. This is a pretty good upgrade, but not so crazy that I would be like, no, the Boomkin can't roll on this. It's better for the mage. I would not. I would not do that personally. I would say just any caster / roll. Moving on. Major Domo. So these gloves of Hypnotic Flame are interesting. Mages during this phase are typically playing Frost, Arcane Frost, or Winter's Chill if you're that mage. You with dual spec, you can play fire for some bosses, but a lot of mages aren't been maxing enough to care to do that. So these gloves are really like kind of for the future. And by the time all like pretty much all mages transition to fire in like AQ, these gloves are kind of outclassed at that point. And then like warlocks may be playing fire in AQ as well, but as a rule, just whoever wants it, roll. If a mage and a warlock both want it, you might say the mage could probably get more use out of it. But as a rule, these gloves aren't that crazy. I mean, they're good because the 9 spell damage does stack with the 23 fire damage. So these gloves do give you 32 fire damage and 9 of all school. So, I mean, they're good. But, like I'm saying, warlocks really are casting Shadow Bolt and mages are casting Frostbolt. So these gloves aren't that crazy. Just I would say just give it to whoever wants it. A Sash of Whispered Secrets. This is a good belt for Shadow Priests and Warlocks. But this is one of those rare instances where I would say Shadow Priests are top prio because this is their Abyss and remains their Abyss until the foreseeable future. There is a belt from PWL, Firemaw's Clutch, that Shadow Priests do like a little bit more than this. But even that's not a huge upgrade over this for them. And then Warlocks get like tier 2 belt in BWL like I was saying before. And this belt for Warlock is only like a hair better than Banthok's Sash. The 11 damage 1 hit belt from what's that dungeon called? Blackrock Deaths. BRD. This belt is really only like a hair better than that anyways. Whereas Shadow Priest, this belt is considerable amount better than Banthok's Sash for them. Just because they really don't need a whole lot of hit. They still do need some hit. They get 10% from talents, which is why I'm saying that. And hit cap is like 16%. So they do still need some hit. They need 6%. But like Warlocks have no hit from talents. So like they really do value the hit when compared to like a Shadow Priest. So I would say Shadow Priest first. Give it to your one Shadow Priest if you even have one. And then let the Warlocks have fun with this. Not a crazy item. Ragnaros. So Choker the Fire Lord. I would say, well, first let's get it straight. This is every caster's Biss until AQ40. Every caster wants Choker the Fire Lord. But similar to Toep, I would say this is such a coveted item that I do feel like mages and warlocks should be above the quote-unquote meme specs. But the meme specs should be above healers because healers may want this as well, but they can get the necklace from Strathome animated chain necklace or whatever. That is pretty much the same thing. Now healers would like this for PvP because you want to have some spell damage for PvP as well. But this is such a good item for PvE that I would say healers are bottom of the totem pole for this. But yeah, I would say this is a good enough item to where if I was a mage or a warlock and I was pumping and performing well, I would be a little bit upset if Boomkin, who is doing half my DPS, got Choker before me. Like I kind of said before, I feel like the meme specs kind of know what they're signing up for, in that these really high ticket coveted items typically are going to be given to mages and warlocks before them. So yeah, that's kind of my feelings on Choker the Fire Lord. Mage equal Warlock, then the meme specs, then healers. Moving on, Band of Sulphurous. Casters or healers, whoever wants it, / roll. It's kind of just a PvP item. For PvE, this is no casters bis, and healers typically would prefer like spell power rings as well. So it's kind of just a PvP item / roll. And then Onyxia. So we have the Dragonslayer Signet. This is a nice ring, 1% crit, good stamina, fire res, spirit. Mages would prefer the freezing band. Yes, that's what it's called. 21 frost damage ring from Epic World Drop. Those are kind of expensive, but those are definitely better than this for mages. Warlocks will probably be wearing like Maiden Circle or Eye of Orgrimmar, and or maybe even like the Underworld Band, 14 shadow damage. But it doesn't really matter. All of what I'm saying doesn't really matter because you're probably not going to get this anytime soon as a caster, because it drops from the head of Onyxia, which gives an amazing necklace for all melee tanks, warriors, rogues, hunters. All melee really want the necklace that you get from the quest, and they should be prioritized. Every melee should get the head of Onyxia before any caster, just because this ring is really like a side grade to Prebis. So once it's eventually your turn to get this, all casters just / roll. Casters, healers, whatever. It's not a crazy item. It's nice, but you shouldn't really be clamoring over this. Moving on, Ancient Cornerstone Grimoire from Onyxia. This book is the exact same thing from Stratholme. They get another summon skeleton book. But typically you see more of these than that one, just because that one, I think it's like a 1% drop or something. Whereas this is a reasonable drop off in Onyxia. It has no spell damage or anything, so it's no one's like raid bis. However, you can pre-pop this before a boss pull, then swap to a normal offhand, and then your skeleton will slap the boss a little bit and contribute to your DPS very slightly. So for that reason, I would just say equal prio for any class that can use an offhand. It's really mostly a PvP item because the skeleton is really nice in PvP. So even warriors, rogues, hunters, any class that can equip an offhand, I would just say if you want this for PvP, / roll. Simple as that. Then final item, Saffron Drape. This is a very nice cloak. Arguably every caster's Prebis. It is comparable to like a green, like a level 55 to 60 green of Shadow Wrath for Warlock, of Frozen Wrath for Mage. I think those can roll up to like 21 or 22 spell damage, which is more than the 14 on this. But this does have a lot of good like stamina and resistances and stuff. So overall, I would say casters would say this is their bis. Even like Shadow Priests who really like spell damage, because 17 intellect is really nice on Shadow Priests because they're so mana starved. But I wouldn't go as far to say that this item is so coveted and amazing that mages and warlocks should be given it over the meme specs. I would say all casters, if you're a caster DPS, / roll. Simple as that. It is comparable to the green of whatever Wrath, and it's a really nice PvP cloak, but it's not like Choker the Fire Lord or Talisman of Ephemeral Power kind of deal, to where you're using this into the next phase and into AQ. I would just say / roll. Simple as that. But I would say casters over healers. Healers would like this as well. For a lot of bis lists will say this is healers bis, but those bis lists I would say are slightly mistaken, because there is a cloak from Warsong Honored, I think. It gives you like 26 healing. And then also like next phase in Dire Maul and BWL, There's like Hide of the Wild and good cloaks from Dire Maul and stuff. If I was a healer, I wouldn't be super crazy about this. It is a really nice PvP cloak for healing, but with what's available in the coming phases for healers, I would say that casters would typically get more use out of this than any healer. But yeah, that's the video. I left off some items like there's like a leggings from Molten Core off one of the bosses that just gives you like 16 MP5 or something. Like items like that I just didn't even talk about. And I also didn't talk about tier gear because like it's only for that class. Like warlocks roll on the Fel Arc gear, mages roll on the Arcanist gear, whatever. So I didn't really talk about tier gear except for when it was like applicable, like when I talked about tier 2 compared to Mana Igniting Cord. But yeah, that's the video. I will make a follow-up talking about BWL and ZG gear. But yeah, that's it. Basically, my philosophy that I kind of look at these things is kind of give the meme specs some loot, but for the super coveted items like Choker the Fire Lord, Talisman of Ephemeral Power, I would say it is fair to expect mages and warlocks to get that stuff first. And then, yeah, don't just look at BIS lists. Also take into consideration what's coming up soon. Because if you just look at a BIS list, Mana Igniting Cord is Warlock's BIS too, so why wouldn't you give it to Warlocks? Well, because Nemesis Belt next phase. That kind of stuff. That's the kind of logic I try to use when I'm making these videos. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you disagree with me in the comments, I'd love to talk about it. Or if you agree with me, you think everything I said was spot on, let me know that as well. But yeah, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.